Is that him? Welcome, everybody, as you join us live on ABC7.com and our 24/7 streaming channels. Chris Christie up in Air 7 over in LA, actually a CHP pursuit. CHP tracking the suspect through the Cahuenga Pass back into Hollywood. This started near the 605 freeway, took the 101 freeway through downtown, up through Hollywood, in through the Cahuenga Pass, and then turned around, got off at Barham, and is now heading straight down Highland Avenue as he heads back into Hollywood. An air unit right overhead, and the ground units losing him as he got off of the 101 freeway. They missed the exit as he got off at Barham, and he is now under the gun here over the under that CHP helicopter. You can see the night sun on him. CHP trying to catch up. The want here is speeding. He's wanted for speeding. We do not know what other crimes may be associated with this suspect or how many people are inside this vehicle, but you can see it is a Chevy Tahoe turning off of Highland now at Franklin, trying to figure out his next move. He doesn't appear very certain about where he wants to head, but he does know that night sun is tracking his movements. He can see the sun, the light rather, as that helicopter tracks him through Hollywood, maintaining a visual here while they have temporarily, at least, suspended the pursuit on the ground. Eastbound Franklin Avenue. Slowing down with traffic. Again, this all started further east in East LA, heading down the 10 freeway. CHP behind the suspect as he going the wrong way now as he tries to cut through this parking lot, going the wrong way, and now coming out onto Wilcox from Franklin, and now a left turn onto Wilcox Avenue and picking up a little bit of speed. And there is CHP trying to catch up with him. Parallel here. He's right by the freeway and maybe attempting to get back on the freeway. He's going to run into that CHP cruiser in just a moment. CHP going to turn around with them? No, didn't even turn around. Suspect getting back on the freeway, southbound side of the 101 freeway. CHP with their airship right overhead here. We'll see if we see any units on the freeway. But that unit on the ground there just drove right past him. He had his lights flashing earlier. In any event, now that suspect is off into the night here as he makes his way southbound now on the 101 freeway. Picking up a lot of speed now. Again, speeds in excess of 90 miles per hour with a lot of freeway to play with. He did slow down a little bit when he got off the freeway, but as long as he's been on the freeways, between the 10 freeway, getting off at the 4 level onto the 101 freeway, he's been doing speeds in excess of 80 to 90 miles per hour and doing a lot of weaving around traffic to get away from those initial pursuing officers. Now he is hitting a little bit of a jam up here, some brake lights at Fernwood here, but he's heading southbound now on the 101 where there is a little bit of traffic as he gets a little further down in towards Echo Park, towards Silver Lake. Downtown looks a little bit slower. They are watching this suspect from the air, trying to figure out if he has any idea where he wants to go here, trying to figure out what that destination may be. Again, they may have intelligence that we are not aware of, but they do seem to be taking more of a surveillance approach here as they monitor his movements from the air. Tracking this suspect southbound on the 101 freeway. No units getting involved on the ground. We're just listening in on the radio here. It does not sound like they are going to intercept this vehicle on the ground. They're going to wait until he gets off the freeway and then figure out their next move. But right now, they're going to watch him from that helicopter with the night sun on him. Southbound 101 through Melrose. And some flashing lights a little bit further back there. There's a new primary unit taking over the pursuit. And once again, the suspect refusing to pull over. CHP giving the go-ahead to continue this pursuit through some heavier volume here on the southbound side of the 101 freeway as he uses the shoulder at times. Right now, pulled all the way over to that left lane. There he is, getting back on the shoulder. CHP on the shoulder with him as he tries to get around traffic here. Kind of straddling the number one lane there at about 40 miles per hour. Here he does some more weaving to try and evade that primary unit. CHP calling in for additional backup here as they once again try to bring this suspect to heel. This is a Chevy Tahoe, unknown number of occupants inside the vehicle. Again, the only want that we are aware of was speeding. They tried to pull him over near the 605 freeway on the 10 and has refused to pull over this entire time. All right, CHP with about a half a dozen units. They're asking some of those units to back off. They have more than a handful dedicated to this pursuit now as that primary unit pulls right up behind him, getting a solid ID on the vehicle as he continues to speed up here. They are apparently discussing the possibility of calling OnStar to see if there's any way to shut down this vehicle. That is what we're hearing over the radio. Possibly using OnStar to shut down the vehicle. Again, hard to make out the year and make of this. Well, hard to make out the year of this vehicle. It is a Chevy Tahoe. The newer ones do have the capability of being remotely shut down by OnStar, and they appear to be calling OnStar to try and figure out if that's a possibility. Thank you. Continuing southbound on the 101 freeway through Alvarado, through Echo Park here, getting closer to downtown LA. And you can see a lot of that traffic we were talking about just a few minutes ago. In fact, I think some of this traffic is probably what spooked him earlier, but he is sticking with the freeway now, reversing course and heading back in the opposite direction he came in. Copy that. CHP trying to get a better look inside that driver's side window. Let's throw up the speed tracker real quick. Roughly what, about 80 to 90? Yeah. Copy that. All right, so we've got 3 units left in this pursuit. The backup units have pulled off temporarily for safety reasons, and they have now decided to continue to apply pressure on this suspect as he speeds away from them through downtown LA, southbound 101 freeway at Spring Street in the heart of downtown, passing through Chinatown as he continues back towards the East LA interchange. We've got several units behind him, and it sounds like they're setting up units ahead of him possibly, especially if he gets off back on onto the 10 freeway, which is, again, where he came from. And there could be a possibility that that transition might allow them to lay down a spike strip if there's if the traffic is sparse enough. It may not be, but if they can set up at the end of that transition, which it does look like he's taking, getting off the 101. All right, getting off the 101, approaching the 10 and the 5. We'll see where he decides to, which direction he decides to go here. He will have a decision to make momentarily. All right, we're now on the 10 freeway where CHP is about to hand this off to the East LA office. And there's the switch. There's the switch right there. A new primary unit taking over. And those central units now backing off. A new crew from CHP picking up this pursuit. Possibly even some of the same officers that were originally involved here. In any event, it does appear that they are continuing to dedicate resources to this pursuit, handing this off as he gets further down the 10 freeway here past Soto in Boyle Heights. It is a black Chevy Tahoe or Chevy or GMC Yukon possibly. Not clear which, either a GMC Yukon or a Chevy Tahoe. There is some confusion as to the make and model of the vehicle, but they are discussing the possibility of contacting OnStar to shut this vehicle down. So if that happens, it would be very interesting and something we have talked about in the past, but very rarely ever seen in practice. I think we might have seen it once in the last year or two with a Tesla, but now the suspect is really picking up a lot of speed here. Look at this, 110 miles per hour flying down the 10 freeway. Stand by, going live. Back over to the HOV lane. One minute. Copy that. Can you tell, Rob, if that is a GMC or a Chevy? It looks like a GMC, actually. Chevy? Yeah. The front end looks like a GMC, but you're right. It could be either. GMC. GMC Yukon. Yep.
Speeds topping 100 miles per hour, weaving through traffic. Also, our Chris Christie live in Air 7 overhead with more on this ongoing pursuit. Chris?
Michelle, this is a high-speed pursuit. The driver wanted for speed, started in the Baldwin Park area on the 10 freeway, which we're basically heading back in that direction now, but he made his way from the 605 all the way to the 4 level through downtown, took the 101 freeway up through Hollywood into the Cahuenga Pass, and then turned around at Barham. CHP temporarily losing the pursuit on the ground, but able to maintain a visual with their helicopter up overhead, providing the night sun. They also have a fixed-wing aircraft above us that is also tracking all of the action from up high. So you've got 2 air units and now a new group of CHP East LA officers. Those troopers now picking up the pursuit moments ago as they continue to apply pressure on this suspect who is now transitioning off of the freeway, getting off of the 10 freeway, getting off at possibly Saxon Avenue. This was unexpected. He's getting off the freeway. A little bit of traffic for him as he gets off here. And let's see where he goes. He can go north or south on Del Mar Avenue. CHP right behind him, making the right turn southbound on Del Mar Avenue. The suspect, again, refusing to pull over. It's a GMC Yukon, guys, with an unknown number of people inside the vehicle, but the driver, again, refusing at all costs to pull over for these officers. And once again, almost as if he's toying with these officers, getting back onto the freeway.
It's interesting that he signaled that right turn. Somebody who's on the run from officers signaling his intent to get back on the freeway, which he then did. It looks like. Is that an on-ramp that he's on?
Yep, on-ramp back onto the freeway. We'll get the. Is that that's going to be the eastbound side, right?
Right.
He's back onto the eastbound side of the 10 freeway. So he just got off and got right back onto the same freeway, going in the same direction here as he continues to pick up speed. When he sees a clear straightaway, he really presses the gas pedal and tries to create a little bit of distance. They were possibly attempting to set up on the transition for a spike strip. That did not work out, but they were able to hand it off. There's also discussion on the radio, guys, of attempting to contact OnStar to potentially shut the vehicle down remotely. That would be interesting, something we seldom see, but certainly possible in the newer model vehicles, and that could be something that comes into play here. But right now we've got 3 units altogether. We had about double this amount earlier. They had a handful of them back off a little bit, and they just have these 3 East LA officers, again, continuing at no more than 3 or 4 car lengths behind him, really right behind him, and you can see what he does there. Every time they pull up behind him, he just weaves around traffic. The driving has been relatively erratic on the freeways, much tamer when he was on surface streets for a brief time, but those freeways are really allowing him to pick up speed, guys.
Yeah, before we came on air here live, we were streaming this pursuit online, and this has been going on for about 30 minutes. You've been with it for the past 20 of those 30 minutes. What are some things that have stood out in terms of some of the behavior of this driver?
Well, right now, again, as I was just about to say, he's now pushing triple-digit speeds now that the freeway is clearing up for him. He had to slow down a little bit through downtown. There was a little bit of volume. They did a great job of tracking him through downtown. But the back and forth here, the real uncertainty about where he wants to go, whether he intends on giving up, whether he's going to run this thing into the ground or potentially dump the vehicle and try and hide somewhere in some place that he might be more comfortable with. We don't know, but he's really taken them on quite the joyride here from East LA through downtown into Hollywood, almost into the San Fernando Valley, only to turn around and come all the way back to home base, or at least the area where this pursuit started. So that is what really sticks out here, not only to me, but absolutely to those law enforcement officers on the ground who are trying to play a little bit of mind games with him and try and predict where he's going to end up here as they try and do their homework, figuring out where this person resides, where this registration is coming back to, if it even belongs to the suspect. No idea whether this is even his vehicle.
Indeed, and I was just researching a little bit about OnStar and what it can do, what they're capable of here. It can, in fact, remotely, what it can do is slow the vehicle down. It won't stop it because that could actually be dangerous. You lose control of steering and braking, as we all know, when the engine is off. So they're not going to, when the guy's going 110, just turn the engine off immediately. What it does, though, is slow the vehicle down to it where it eventually is basically the engine's at an idle speed, which means it can't go very fast at all, even if it's engaged in gear. And then if the car is parked or the engine is turned off by the driver, it can't be restarted. So it's basically an anti-theft thing that is a feature of the OnStar system. I don't know if this vehicle is automatically equipped with that, if that's an option, if that's something that they can do, but you mentioned that, Chris, that they are looking into that as a possibility, as a way of shutting this pursuit down, and that would be a very nice, calm, safe way of doing it rather than a pit maneuver or, in the worst case, a crash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, we've heard about this. We've never actually seen it in practice, at least as far as I can remember, with the exception of a Tesla pursuit that I remember watching. It was not us over, but I remember seeing it where you might have been over that one, Mark, where the Tesla was essentially driving with a driver who fell asleep. I don't know if you can recall the one I'm talking about, maybe about a year or two ago. In any event, it is a possibility with newer model luxury vehicles, and if this GMC fits that description, then that may very well be a possibility for them to turn to, at least to slow the vehicle down, even if it doesn't bring them to a complete stop here. That's a discussion that's ongoing, but obviously with the speeds he's doing, they are not having much luck with that, at least just yet.
Well, Chris, what also makes this interesting is that this is a high-speed pursuit with an unknown want besides just speeding. So then it's not as if law enforcement knows that this is someone that's armed or is not armed. They don't know how many people are in the vehicle, or maybe if they do, we're just not aware of that. So many unknowns that I would imagine play into their options as they're kind of considering how to safely bring this to an end.
Lost it.
Okay, so we lost communication with Chris Christie a moment ago, but Michelle brought up an excellent point about, that there's so many unknowns with regard to this, then that may temper the way the pursuing officers are dealing with this. If this was just a speeding issue, one wonders whether they would still be pursuing the vehicle. Would it be worth all these resources? You talked about a fixed-wing aircraft, plus a helicopter, plus these at least three units from different divisions of the Highway Patrol that have been following this thing for the better part of an hour now. And it makes you wonder if they know something else about this that we are not privy to.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mark. With this amount of resources and continuing to apply pressure where they can here, there's been really no attempt to give this up whatsoever. And so that tells me they know a little bit more than we do in terms of what this person may be wanted for. Speed certainly appears to be possibly the least of it, if those clues are any indication. It's, again, impossible for us to tell how many people are inside this car, but you can tell just from this angle right here. Heavily tinted windows, almost looks like a limo tint. I don't know if this is if it's obviously a common Uber SUV type vehicle. Again, don't know who owns this vehicle, and we don't know if this is the driver's vehicle. That really is the point. If it is, then they're able to really track down more information on the driver, most specifically where he lives. That tells them a lot more and gives them a lot more ability to plan ahead. He is seeing the traffic jam up ahead that I don't want to show you just yet because I don't want to take the camera off the suspect, but there is a traffic jam ahead of him, and it looks like he might be pulling over to the right, looking for an exit opportunity as he comes up on Azusa Avenue, continuing now eastbound on the 10 freeway at Azusa Avenue, over the Gore Point, not taking the exit, actually coming to a complete stop, trying to figure out, does he want to get off or does he want to get on, or is OnStar shutting the vehicle down? Suspect now at a complete stop, opening the driver's side door,
He's got a paper
walking
in his
right
hand.
out of the vehicle. He's got what?
He's got paper. You see
He's
that?
got paper.
He's got some
Yep,
sort of
he's got
something on
paper.
paper, and then something else that he laid down on top of it. But boy, he sure gave up quickly as soon as he got out of the vehicle.
Immediately stepped out of the vehicle and is now proned out, showing his hands. Thank goodness, because he got out a little too quick for comfort, but he was holding a piece of paper. He's now laid that piece of paper on the pavement and is now standing up, complying with officers as he follows their commands. The suspect, you mentioned, Mark, how he was signaling, almost like he was trying to give these officers a hint as to where he was going. It's going to be very interesting if we ever figure out what that piece of paper says, or if in fact he's been trying to communicate something with these officers. Again, we do not know the mental state of this driver. We have no idea, but they're about to learn a lot more as he steps backwards in their direction. They will. It looks like he almost looks like he's barefoot. Is he barefoot, or is he wearing
Just light-colored shoes.
Maybe, I can't tell. Okay, so the suspect's in custody. They're going to gingerly approach that vehicle and make sure the rest of the vehicle is clear. So the driver now being placed into handcuffs. That piece of paper he was holding is now in the middle of the freeway, and they are now going to approach that vehicle very carefully, assuming somebody's in there, but hopefully it's empty. We have to assume that there's somebody in there until they can prove otherwise, but that vehicle came to a very sudden stop. He was looking for an opportunity to get off, whether it was starting to slow down on him intentionally or whether he was looking to avoid that traffic jam. Hard to say, but he pulled over right at the gore point, and the vehicle stopped right there, just short of that sign. It looks like they're going to look right through there. They've got flashlights in the vehicle, opening up all four doors here, checking the rear of the vehicle, and it does look like this is going to be a code 4.
Is anyone going for the
Vehicle is
paper?
clear.
Well, one wonders whether
They
that
pick that
paper's
paper up, Rob?
relevant at all. I haven't seen that. No, it's still sitting there.
Yeah, it'd be good to read that.
Find out what is it. Maybe there's a clue as to his intent, as to what his purpose was.
Exactly.
But you notice, even again, I call attention to the signaling. He signaled that he was pulling over, and he did. So he was signaling lane changes. So the behavior was strange and somewhat erratic, but then there was a logic behind it as well, a kind of following the rules. So one wonders what the exact motivation was for this, but he gave up extremely quickly once he stopped the vehicle and got out. He followed their commands completely. They took him into custody. And we will hopefully find out what the charge is, in addition to evading, if there was something underlying this that may be the reason for this pursuit. And again, can you give the location here?
Yeah, we're right at the eastbound side of the 10 freeway at Azusa Avenue. Traffic ahead of them, and now a traffic jam behind this pursuit termination as CHP temporarily shuts down all of the main lanes of the 10 freeway here in the San Gabriel Valley. You can see the jam that is developing here. Hopefully, within the next couple of minutes, they'll at least be able to open up the left lanes, probably open up the whole thing once they can move that car off of the freeway.
Yeah, and it seemed like where he stopped also won't be blocking traffic too badly. Or did they already move his vehicle out of the way?
Well, they're going to do it quickly because
Yeah.
they do want to get traffic moving. Chris Christie, thank you for your live coverage of that pursuit and its conclusion.
To other news now, and an early morning raid here in Southern California that the feds are calling Operation Gangsta's Paradise.
Dozens of suspected members of the notorious Mexican mafia criminal gang were taken into custody. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Hass